Alrighty, what is up, everyone? What is up? It's been, I think, 3 weeks since I've been able to talk with you all, and a whole lot of stuff has happened in 3 weeks. We, of course, launched the great ACP. I want to say 2 weekends ago now, and I was able to take a trip to Venezuela. I was invited as an election observer, and I want to talk about some of the crazy stories that I have from that trip today. Also, give a general analysis of the situation over there, of the elections, of the expected reaction from the US backed far right. And then also at the end of our program today, speak a little bit about the ACP, give you some of my thoughts. I know that Noah and Eddie were able to do a stream a few days after we all got back from Chicago, but I also want to be able to give some thoughts on the importance of this historic reconstitution of the American Communist Party. So, without further ado, let's get started with our international, and then let's start this wonderful program of ours.
Injustice and economic injustice cannot be solved without a radical redistribution of political and economic power.
All righty. Welcome, everyone. As Comrade Sebastian said, make sure to like and share the stream. Folks with our ideas are obviously not going to be promoted in the algorithm. The only way that we can get these ideas out there, this analysis of unfolding geopolitical events, is if you do your job and share it, like it, share it with friends who might not already agree ideologically with you. That's so important. It's very easy to get bogged down into this very narrow mindset where you're only speaking with people who agree with you ideologically, and we should never do that. We should always remember where is the regular individual in our communities at ideologically, and those are the people we should really be trying to reach, because that's the critical mass. Those are regular working class people. So I'd like to propose a new thing that we'll be doing at the beginning of every stream, which is I would like every consistent militant of the Midwestern Marxist Institute and of the ACP to share our streams with at least one person that they can confirm are not already a communist. Share it with at least one normal working class person from your community, from your job site, so that they can see the sort of content and ideas that have brought you to the ideas that you currently have. If you think these ideas are correct, share it with someone who doesn't already agree with them, who isn't already predisposed to agree with this analysis. And as always, I invite everyone to send in questions, critical or otherwise. We'd be happy to take as many questions as possible in order to not leave any doubt unexamined, unexplained. So I was invited to Venezuela. I got there the 24th. My specific role was election observer. I was invited by the official branch is the Ministry of Foreign Affairs to oversee the elections. It was the largest pool of invited delegates ever, not just, I think, in Venezuela. I was talking to a few comrades, one of which is Dennis, who I'm going to butcher his name. I've asked him 7 times to tell me how to pronounce his last name, but I still can't remember. So I'm going to show you his Twitter and send you all his way. Let me see. There he is. Denis Ragutyak, which I'm sure I'm pronouncing that wrong. But great comrade, Russian, studying a PhD now in Australia. He was doing classes while he was in Venezuela, which was insane. I don't know in what time the man slept. But great comrade, he travels literally all over Latin America, and he was telling me that he had never seen a pool of delegates from around the world as big as this one. There was well over 1,000 people there overseeing the elections. There was delegations from Africa, from various parts of Latin America. There was a few Americans there from the U.S. There was people from Europe. There was people from Eastern Europe, from Eurasia, from China. Um, there was comrades from Vietnam. It was an insane place to be at. It was a really welcoming place. It was almost like overwhelming. If you're an American communist, it's an overwhelming place to be at because you're here sitting around with people who have been decades in the struggle for power, who have came a lot closer than we have to the conquest of political power, or representatives from states that already have political power in the hands of a communist or workers' party. So it's sorts of conversations that I was able to have this week were plentiful, extremely insightful. The level of networking was amazing, and it really was kind of like a kid at a candy store. It was. I did not get tired at any moment of just talking to people, meeting new faces. One of the things I reject the most is I regret the most is that because of the difficulty of the circumstance and how the last couple of days after the elections unfolded, and I'll get more into some of the crazy stories shortly. I did have to leave early, and there was maybe about a dozen meetings that I had planned that I wasn't able to attend. But just know that if you're an ACP member, we're able to make great connections with amazing parties from around the world. And um, if you're just a general follower of the Midwestern Marx Institute, there's also great contacts that we made that we should be having on for interviews sometime in the near future. Um, it was an amazing event. Like I mentioned, more than 1,000 people invited from around the world to see these elections. There was a lot of different forums and activities aimed at showing people from around the world the detail by detail process through which the Venezuelan electoral process takes place. Um, all I could say is that it's the most secure and efficient thing I have ever seen. Jimmy Carter wasn't lying when he called it the most democratic process he had ever seen in the world. I mean, it's incredible the amount of steps that they go through. Not only do they keep a paper trail, but they have an automatic center where they send it to the CNE, where all the results, the electronic results, are registered. You have to put your fingerprint in order to vote, so that there's no possibility of people voting twice, at least that we know of. There's people that can get creative with it. There's people overseeing the whole process. And I mean, there's like a series of 5 or 6 different steps that are taken in order to ensure that voter fraud is the possibility of voter fraud is completely squashed. And there's reasons behind this. Of course, you want to have the highest level of incorruptibility for your voting process, but part of the reason why it's been so necessary to be very tedious about these voting processes is because of the right wing. The right wing, because they know that they have never been able to win a critical mass of the Venezuelan people, because it's very hard to win over poor working class people on a message that very much represents and reflects the interest of a small minority of rich Venezuelans and the imperialist lackeys in the U.S. that they serve. It's very hard to win a critical mass, and therefore electoral fraud becomes almost a necessary component of trying to come back into positions of power in various areas. And so the Venezuelan government, the revolutionary government, has had to be on its heels in order to prevent any and all forms of electoral fraud. And the system that it's produced, the system that Carter called the most democratic in the world, is a product of the necessity of fighting against the corruption that the right wing embodies in its political practice, the fraud that they necessarily require in order to get more votes than the small pool of votes that they're guaranteed because of the class position that they represent. On the 24th or on the 24th, we were able to go to, on the 25th, excuse me, we were able to go to the closing of the campaign rally. So before the elections, there's 3 days that you can't campaign. You also can't drink. There's a dry law that they have that a lot of other Latin American countries have, where you can't buy alcohol and you can't consume it publicly. So you can have it gifted to you and you can consume it privately, but you can't consume it publicly. Wasn't the biggest fan of that law, but I respected it. The On the 25th, it was the closing of the campaign, and I was able to attend in Caracas a rally done by Maduro and the ruling Socialist Party. And folks, it was euphoric. I had never been anywhere like that. I was speaking to Jackson, who got there the day after, about this event, and the only thing I could compare it to is like a synthesis between the Ultra Music Festival. For those that know, it's like an EDM, electro tech music festival where the hippies go and get drunk and high and look at the lights, and it's a very moving, emotional experience. That my younger self was able to appreciate. Not so much now, but it's a mixture of that with like Christian communism or Christian socialism. It's it was amazing. It was like I would look out into the street and there would literally not be one spot without a human being there. I had never experienced anything like it. Some estimates say that it was hundreds of thousands of people. Others, I've seen some estimates say that it was up to 1 million, perhaps a little bit more than 1 million people. But all I know is that the street was packed, and it was packed with Chavistas. It was filled with people wearing Chavez and Maduro shirts and peace of shirts and their little rooster shirt, which is the symbol of the revolution. The event itself was insane. It mixed in like these popular Chavista songs that are developed in the various campaigns for election and re-election, and these become just regular pop songs. These are not like corny political songs. They're like good songs that regular people listen to, and it was almost like being in a very high energy concert. There was a lot of synergy between the music, the speech, and the people. And it was this interesting dynamic where you would have, maybe 3 or 4 songs play, the people sing, dance, get rowdy, and then you would have Maduro come on and say a few words, talk for like 20 to 30 minutes, get the people pumped up. He's an amazing speaker. Like the speeches were absolutely seamless and smooth and to the point and substantive. So unlike anything that we get here in the US with our politicians that resemble the decrepit state of the American empire. So it would be a mix of Maduro giving amazing speeches about sovereignty, Venezuelan history, Christian socialism, his route to socialism, his relationship with Christianity and the relationship of Christianity and socialism, what the Bolivarian process has been able to accomplish, what the far right is fighting to overthrow, the interest the far right actually represents. So, really substantive messages, but done in a way that it's not just him speaking for 4 hours. It's him, stopping every once in a while, letting the band play, letting the people get pumped up. And then, so I was there, standing in the same place, dancing around for maybe 4 hours, 4 or 5 hours, but I was not tired at any moment. I did not get bored. I did not feel like Maduro was long-winded, because right around the points where you're like, okay, how much longer is this going to go, the songs come back on and the people go wild. And, by the end of it, I started remembering a lot of these songs that I hadn't heard before. Thank you so much, Comrade L, for the 20 Midwestern Marks memberships. Thank you, brother. As you all know, it's a people's funded institute, so that's greatly appreciated. And we also had to spend a few funds to get my ass back here to the States safely. I'll tell you about the story of the hotel I was staying in just a bit. But this rally was absolutely phenomenal. Before the rally itself, I was able to escape the grips of our wonderful attachés, which are basically the guides, the tour guides that they give you, usually um, younger Chavistas, people who are either getting the equivalent in English of their BAs, um, if not, graduate degrees or something. But the attaché that I had was not that. I had some young ones, but I also had some others that were pretty interesting high level people um, that were really good to be around and that I learned a whole lot from. But the first day of activities, we had a panel where someone, very technical individual from the government, outlined the process of the elections. It was, extremely technical, very detailed and impressive. And then a comrade came on afterwards and gave a really good pump up speech about the importance of this election, got the people hyped, and then we headed out. And that's when I was able to escape and go around Caracas, talk to uh, dozens and dozens of just people in the streets, regular working class people within stores, people shopping, street salesmen. And look, guys, what I found was, I'm not lying. I'm not being hyperbolic. I'm not telling you what I'm about to tell you just because I'm a rigid, fixed ideologue who will lie in order to defend the socialist project. No, like I'm genuinely telling you the truth. Out of the hundreds of people that I was able to talk to in that day and the other days, like regular people in the streets without oversight from the attachés or anything, the vast majority of them, maybe 70, 80% of them were, and that's being modest, were pro Chavista. A lot of them were pro Chavista. They were with Maduro. There was some that, had perhaps a little bit of a better affinity with Chavez than with Maduro, but were nonetheless clear that, it was only with Maduro's side that they had even an inkling of being represented as poor working class Venezuelans. Thank you so much, Ruben, for becoming a Midwestern Marx Institute member. Thank you, brother. Um, I saw a bunch of shirts that were Chavista shirts. Chavez's eyes, the iconic eyes. Those were literally all over the place, not just in murals, which are done as community projects. So there's an organic, spontaneous grassroots element to what you see on the streets. It's not just the federal government coming down and painting the streets with a bunch of symbols. No, these are grassroots community organizations that decide what sort of murals they want on the wall. So when you look at the mural that I posted on our Twitter of Xi Jinping, uh, Kim Jong Un, and Putin, those are not murals that the government just came in and painted out of their own volition. It was something that was done by the people that the local communities decided to do. Here it is. Let me show you a picture of this. When I saw this, I went bonkers. I mean, because just imagine if you've been trapped in the belly of the beast most of your life, just being able to see something like this is pretty impressive. So here you have Chavez and El Corazón de los Pueblos, Chavez in the heart of the people, Peace of, which is the party, the Socialist Party, and then Kim Jong Un, Xi Jinping, and Vladimir Putin. So a very clear stance on the side of multipolarity. And again, that's the people in that community doing that. It's not the government coming down from far away and asking for that to be put up. So I saw a lot of murals that were like that with the revolution, that were able to incorporate historical figures of the struggle for Venezuelan sovereignty, not just Simon Bolivar, but all of the great heroes of the first, second, third generation of Venezuelan anti-colonial revolutionaries. Those are always incorporated alongside Hugo Chavez, alongside Nicolás Maduro, alongside Diosdado Cabello, and the leading architects of the contemporary Bolivarian revolution. It made it extremely evident that the position that we've had here in the US for the last 4 or 5 years as the Midwestern Marxist Institute, the position that we now have in a political form as the American Communist Party, of the need to give the struggle for American socialism a national form, of, you know, the fact that we can't be canceling the progressive historical figures of our country just because they had their imperfections and were contradictory figures. The fact that we have to pick up on the rational kernels, the best parts of them, pick up on the parts of them that eventually develop into a much fairer, freer, democratic, and socialist society. That's a necessity. Every country has to do that. Every country has to go back and get the main figures that are in their people's common sense and see how it was that the most positive components of those people have a certain logical necessity to have those ideas, those values, those inclinations, those struggles be developed into socialism. And that's what I saw very evidently in Venezuela. It was clear connections, sometimes made in the form of images and murals between the generation of revolutionaries from Bolivar, which embodied a sort of bourgeois anti-colonial revolution like ours in 1776, the connection of those struggles to the current development of socialism in Venezuela. So it was able to confirm something that we already knew, basically, and something that has already become a central part of our specific line of American Marxism. But confirming it in the flesh is different. And of course, it's something that I was able to talk to a lot of Venezuelans, diplomats and politicians and other officials about, and it's evident to them. When I would mention how parts of the American left want to just throw out the progressive parts of their history, they thought it was ludicrous. They couldn't even believe it. It mirrored the experience that I had the last time I went to Mexico and I spoke with Cuban comrades about this. They literally could not believe the national nihilism that's prevalent in parts of the American left, the feudal American left, some of which were also there in Venezuela. There was a lot of conversations of that nature that I had with comrades from around the world, from different parties, and it was really good to realize that we're not crazy, and this is one of the things that I was able to talk to Jackson and other comrades about. When you travel outside of the country, you come to realize how stupid, meaningless, irrelevant most of the positions of the American left that they quote unquote cancel us for, how ridiculous they are. Like, we should not even care about it. When I sit there and I talk with Russian comrades, when I sit there and I talk with Chinese comrades, with Venezuelan, Cuban comrades, and they can't even register the sort of problems that we treat as problems in the American communist movement because they're entrenched in the established left, you then realize that there's something very dysfunctional about what one has been calling the left in the US. Something that does not resemble the left of any country in the world. And if you're genuine about the struggle for socialism, should you even give a fuck about that? Should you even care? Let them call us whatever names they want to call us. Let them call us all of that. They're the ones that have to exist in a very weird and contradictory predicament where they'll have all of the flags of these countries on their Twitter bios. But if they understood the position that they cancel us for, that these countries have, they would have to cancel them too. So it just reinforced how completely irrelevant the American left is. It's not something we should worry about. Our main concern should be, how does our message sound to regular American people? How does our message sound to communist comrades and comrades embedded in the struggle for multipolarity abroad? Not how does it sound to a left that has had many, many decades to do something and has done nothing. It's a very contradictory predicament. You know, there's flags that are put alongside each other in a lot of the bios of these Twitter leftists, that the people from the country that they put the flag up, if they saw the other flags that their flag was next to, they would have a fit. You know, so it's a very interesting dynamic. It's a very interesting dynamic. How on one side they can uphold these countries, and look, if they do, that's great. We do need people to support countries like Russia, China, etc. But then on the other side, put up the sorts of cultural icons that these countries are very skeptical of. I don't know if a lot of them understand those contradictions. And it gets even worse when people like us are canceled for holding positions that the people they claim to support us for and appreciate us for having. You guys have no idea how many people Jackson and I spoke to from communist parties from around the world who congratulated us for the launching of ACP. People that are in government positions with Socialist and Workers' Party from around the world, in Latin America, in Africa, in Asia, who came up to us, nobodies, you know, who haven't done, we haven't had anyone in power, but who came up to us and said, finally, there's a communist party in America. Finally, a line that is not ridiculous and in a complete anachronism from the understanding of the global communist movement has come to be in America. It's a surreal experience, guys. It's a surreal experience because we don't think a whole lot about ourselves, but then you go abroad and people you very much respect, people who are involved in struggles that we learn from and are inspired by, go up to you to congratulate you for the work that you're doing and tell you that in a way you're the struggle that you're fighting for is something that gives them hope. Because you have to remember that for a lot of these countries, their main concerns, their main obstacles are American imperialism. The sanctions that our state throws on 1/3 of the planet. And those sanctions that are an essential tool in the imperialist toolbox, like the empire itself, they're not just going to fall, you know, on its own. Lenin used to say this a whole lot. The ruling order can wobble all it wants. It will never fall on its own. It has to be overthrown. It has to be made to fall. And the only way that we can make the status of the US as an empire, the only way we can collapse that imperialist character that the American civilization has been forced to take, is from inside, is through succeeding in our struggles, through succeeding in connecting American communism to the American people, helping the American people see how American communism is the logical and practical development of the things that they already accept. We're not inputting new ideas onto our people, we're showing on the basis of the ideas that they already have. How, if they're genuinely committed to those, they have to be American communists. And the comrades from around the world that we were able to talk to, that have seen our videos, that have seen our declarations, that were closely following our launch, were very appreciative of that, because they understood that the only way for us to be successful is with that sort of line. This is a line that we came to not because we're geniuses, not because we were sitting under a tree and had this Buddhist moment of enlightenment and all went from Gautama Siddhartha to Buddha, communist Buddhas. That's not how we, came to these positions. We came to these positions because it's been literally the standard correct position in the history of the communist movement. And it's a movement we study very carefully. It's a movement we are considering ourselves a part of. Thank you, Comrade VLX, for the 8-month membership. And it's a position that's basic. If you understand how things work, you have to understand that socialism has to take a national form. It's not that fucking hard. We're in the US, we need to connect to the American people. It's that easy. If I was in Venezuela, I would have to connect to the Venezuelan people, as the Chavistas have been able to do. If I was in the DPRK, I would have to connect to the Korean people and the Korean civilization, as the DPRK has been able to do. The only fucking country where the so-called leftists say, no, we can reject totally our national past because it's too evil, and therefore be the exception, is the US. It's an American exceptionalism. It's a way of postulating your superiority rooted in an understanding of the uniqueness of your national evils. And we reject that supremacism. We reject that American exceptionalism. We say that us, like all of our comrades from around the world, are going to root our struggle for socialism in the unique traditions of the American people. And this is why we're going to win. This is why I was able to shake hands with communist leaders from around the world who told us, now you guys have what it takes to win. Now you guys have the organization that can see the struggle through to the end. Thank you, VLX, once again for the 10 Midwestern Marks memberships. Thank you so much, brother. Excuse me, I'm recovering from something. I don't know if it was a cold or something else, but it was a whole lot of people. I passed by a whole lot of people. I was expecting to get sick, but thankfully I was chugging down like 3,000 milligrams of vitamin C twice a day. Somewhere near that vitamin C overdose / treating a 1-week cold, curing it in 2 days. That was the strategy. So the second day of the events, we were able to listen to a few leading comrades from the government, including the Vice President, Delcy Rodriguez, speak. That was one of the days that we were able to do a whole lot of networking. That day, I found out that all of the food that had been given to the delegates was all Venezuelan made. If you guys remember in 2019, one of the big issues with Venezuela that the imperialists were using in their rhetoric was the absence of food sovereignty. The fact that Venezuelans were supposedly going hungry. And it's true. They were blocked off from importing the food that they needed in order to survive. Caloric intake took a massive dip. Protein intake took a massive dip. But what has happened in the last 5 years? Venezuela has become food sovereign. It grows now all of the food it needs to survive. This is an amazing feat. This is the sort of thing you accomplish when you have a party at the helm over your state that represents the interests of the people, and not the interests of American foreign multinational corporations. This is what you accomplish when you put people first, when you plan towards those ends. Even through the continued presence of 930 sanctions over the last 5 years, the Venezuelan people have been able to obtain food sovereignty. Thank you so much, Kami Farawi, for the 20 Midwestern Marks memberships. That's huge. Thank you, comrade. It's a people's funded institute, so all of these donations are very much appreciated. My apologies for being a little bit under the weather. We were able to have a gala event, I believe the day after the campaign closed. And in that gala, we were able to continue networking. It was when Jackson got there. He was able to get there in the middle of the gala. It occurred at the old presidential palace. Very fancy place. The food served was very fancy. We were served good wine. We were treated very well. But there I was able to meet a doctor. Let me get the name just so that I don't confuse it. Dr. Djidi from Mali, who was able to study in Cuba. He became a doctor at the University of Havana. And towards the end of this gala, there was the people that were singing in the band were going around and asking people like what they thought of Venezuela, where they came from. I was able to say a few words, and then this comrade started speaking, and by the accent, I could understand that he was Cuban. And he was talking about Africa, studying in Cuba. And then I got to talking with him, and we got along splendidly. We were hugging like half the time. And he told me, hey, do you want to send a message to the comrade that led the coup in Mali? Let me see if I can remember his name. If someone can help me in the chat. Assimi, Comrade Assimi. So he tells me, do you want to send a message to Comrade Assimi in Spanish, and I'll translate it to French? And I was able to do that. And it was an amazing experience. They recorded me sending a warm message to Assimi, the individual that led the popular anti-neocolonial coup in Mali. I emphasized how inspirational these struggles have been for all of us. No, I did it in Spanish. I did it in Spanish, and then the comrade, Dr. Jiri, was able to translate it to French. I emphasized how we understand in America, or as American communists, that our freedom is tied to the freedom of Africa, to the liberation of Africa. That we understand as good students of Nkrumah, that only in unity, in Pan-African unity, can Africa be free. The imperialists and colonialists come in and they want to balkanize Africa, or they balkanize Africa in order to keep it divided and weak. And if they break us up in order to beat us, our response should be, let's unite in order to win. That's what Pan-Africanism is all about. And so I emphasized how impressed, hopeful, how closely following we are these progressive people's coups in the Sahel region, how deeply we hope for their unity and spread across the African continent, and how we understand our struggles. as intimately connected. We understand that when the people of Mali win and overthrow French colonialism, we win. When we win, they win. We're on the same side, and that's one of the angles that we're always emphasizing and will continue to emphasize. We support these struggles not out of some petty bourgeois humanitarian moralist concerns, even if those are present. I am, I'm someone who, in my personal life, definitely embody one of the things that Che once said, which is that a revolutionary should be able to feel joy when in another corner of the planet imperialists are overthrown, and to feel sadness when in another corner of the planet a people's struggle is stopped. I feel that at a basic human and empathetic level. But the point is that we can't just pitch it as that. We have to show our people that we have to support these not out of some basic sense of morality. If you have that, perfect. But you have to support it because it is in your interest. It is not two separate interests. It is not, oh, the Africans won, good, now let's hope we. No, when they win, we win. It's one fight. It's the fight of the people, the working class and oppressed. Remember the adjustment of the traditional communist slogan, which was Workers of the World Unite. In the Third International, when it becomes clear that national struggles of oppressed peoples are also forms of class struggles, the slogan is Working and Oppressed Peoples of the World Unite. So when oppressed peoples, beyond just working class people, when oppressed peoples in general throw off the yoke of colonialism in Mali, in Niger, in Burkina Faso, those are our victories too. Those are victories for our people. Those are victories for our movement. The people they overthrew are the same imperialist scum who keep us poor, indebted, and desperate at home. It's the same bully that bullies us and then goes to bully them that got their ass kicked by them. So we applaud and we feel it as our victory. That's the message I was able to send Assimi Gyota, who this comrade knew very well, very personally, because he's involved in the training of doctors after getting his education in Havana, Cuba. Thank you so much, Sheniche, for the $5. Don't you think that left-right dichotomy is not relevant anymore politically nowadays? I'd like to still hold it, but redefine it in terms of its more traditional understanding. Left just meant the forces that stand on the side of progress. Right meant the forces that wanted to hold history back. Today, what calls itself left, which is primarily whatever stands on the side of cultural issues that is aligned with the liberal wing of the ruling class. Today, what calls itself left is often right, because it's often a force used to hold the progression of history back. A force that's used as a fetter, as an obstacle to the development of history. And then there's a lot of times that things that people that call themselves right, like MAGA workers, who are anti-war, anti-deep state, anti-big pharma, anti-media, anti all the main institutions, ideological or coercive, of the ruling order, those people are standing on the side of progress. Because if they fight to overthrow it, they're standing on the side of progress. These are the main institutions preventing the development of history. So I would say that today they are leftists that call themselves leftists, but that are actually on the right. And today there's a lot of rightists who call themselves rightists, but because of the positions that they take on key issues of what's holding history back, are actually on the left. But I understand that we do also have to have some attention that has to be paid to the colloquial usage of these terms. Okay. Um, on election day, I was able to see, I want to say seven voting booths. Um, there was a couple where there was a longer line, but when I went into the voting rooms, things were moving along very quickly. People were in and out within a minute, minute and a half, and it was very good to see. Um, we got to see all sorts of different voting stations, some in opposition neighborhoods, some in Chavista neighborhoods, and the level of efficiency was the same. The treatment of the people was different, though. That's something I'd like to say real quick. When you went to the Chavista neighborhoods, it was mostly people of color, either my skin tone or darker, um, humble people, working class people, and extremely nice. They would come up to us and talk and say hi to us and welcome us. When we would leave, they would tell us, "No, stay longer." They would offer us candy and food and drinks. They would engage with us and talk to us very nicely, ask us where we came from and what we think. And although they couldn't talk politics within, although we couldn't, they couldn't talk politics within the voting booths. You could still tell these were decent, humble people and Chavistas. Now there was two voting booths that were in the opposition, in opposition neighborhoods. None of them were as dark as me. Everyone was like, they were so white. Jackson Hinkle, I think one of the things he said was, "These people are whiter than me." For Jackson to say, "These people are whiter than me," that's something. Um, but they were all wealthy. It was wealthier neighborhoods. Vast majority of them are white. So this is how, like, there's a racial component to class in a lot of Latin America. We can't deny that. And it was like literally fucking 30 Karens. It was like as soon as we get there, it's trying to come up to us to complain about some shit. "Oh my God, we've been here for 30 minutes. Oh my God, we've been here. What are you doing? It's been 30 minutes. We've been here for 30 minutes." You know why some of these people are there longer? Because the Chavistas have a principle on election day that if you are someone that's disabled or older, or if you're a pregnant woman or a woman with kids, you go first. And guess what? That's good. That's good. So a lot of these fucking perfectly abled 6'2" white blonde people with light eyes, I'm sorry that you had to wait 30, 40 minutes so that an 85-year-old grandma can vote before you, or a pregnant mother can vote before you. I don't care. I don't feel empathy for that. But these people were coming up to us election observers and to our attachés and trying to complain, crying crocodile tears. It's like, get the fuck out of here. Get the fuck out of here. Some of them were extremely mean. Some of them were like screaming names at various election observers and attachés. They were literal assholes. Literal assholes. So that was like at the human level, I was able to have a little sociological experience with the Chavistas, nice, humble, working class people, and then the white, wealthy opposition, assholes. And that wasn't everyone, but that was speaking in broad, general sociological terms. That's a reality I experienced. They were entitled, right? That's the Emergent Hub here has it, entitled. It's like, I'm entitled to come in and vote before this poor grandma. Um, there was voting was interesting because one of the things that the opposition does, they do a lot of things to try to bring about voter fraud because they know they don't have the people on their side. But one of the things that they have been talking about doing for a very long time is hiring Venezuelan and Colombian gangsters and gang members to come in and terrorize the booths. There was a lot of threats of violence that were made. There was opposition people going around the streets with upside down roosters, bloodied. The rooster is, of course, the symbol of the revolution. So the imagery that they're giving out is clear. They're going to promote terror and violence. And what that brings about is fear. You know, the goal of it is to imbue fear into the Venezuelan people so that they don't go out to vote, so that they stay home. That's what they are, gangster terrorists. You're right, default TMC. Traitors of the homeland. The violence was evident. It was imminent. We knew it was coming. When we were going to the booths, they told us that if we stayed long enough until like 6 o'clock, which is when they're supposed to close, they don't close if there's people in line. That they've stayed open in the past until 3 a.m. If there's still people in line set to vote, they'll stay open. But technically, it's supposed to close at 6. What the opposition does is that it shows up at 6. It shows up at 6 right at the end to cause havoc and say, oh, look, we were prevented from voting. They told us they asked a question I never thought I was going to be asked. I was in one of those Chavista neighborhoods. And they asked me and some of the other election observers, do you guys know how to dodge Molotov cocktails? Look, they could have been fucking with us. Like, damn, let us try to scare these foreigners. I highly doubt it though. They're like, be ready to dodge Molotov cocktails. Because the opposition comes in, especially right around the closing of the voting, and they terrorize. They'll throw stuff, Molotov cocktails, within the voting stations to try to cause havoc and chaos. So that was a question I never expected to have been asked. It was it was a heightened atmosphere. I felt safe with the attachés that I had, but it was a difficult situation that under different circumstances and with less security, it could have gone south very quickly. They told us that there was an attempted bombing of one of the hotels where the delegates were staying. Wasn't the one that I was in. But who knows? The people from that hotel that they tried to bomb didn't know. They didn't know about it. Obviously, to not scare people, but the opposition went lower than usual. I was talking to some of the higher level security people. They usually target things relating elections, government buildings and government things, stuff from the party, which we've all seen. Uh yes. What's the acronym from the movie? There's a funny acronym that's like all the different steps you have to do to dodge. Um yeah, they planted a bomb in one of the hotels in order to blow up the delegates, which was wild. I don't think anything like that had ever been done. They were obviously able to prevent it, but it was a very scary situation because if they did it to one hotel, what's stopping them from doing it to another? But Venezuelan intelligence services are amazing. They learn from the Cuban ones, and the Cuban ones learn from KGB. So that's uh, that's that. Let's see what else. Uh, the hotel I was in, all across the perimeter, it was filled with the opposition protesters. The opposition was all across our perimeter. That's what made the last few days very stressful. Very stressful. As soon as the dry law went away, I remember sitting in the diner with a lot of the other comrades from different countries, and we were just taking back whiskey, not knowing if in 5 to 10 minutes 300 thugs were going to break in through the perimeter and attack us, try to kill us, kidnap us, hold us hostage. We weren't armed. We had no way of defending ourselves. So it was a very high stakes situation. It was stressful. Um, I I don't think I had been in one of those situations before. I've had like near death experiences, but you have them out of nowhere, and then you're like, "Wow, that was intense." But a situation where you feel like they're coming to get you, and you don't know if tonight might be your last night, if the whiskey on your lips might be the last things you taste. It's a difficult place to be at. Psychologically, it forces you to man up. It really does. I was having I was having text exchanges with people close to me, people meaningful in my life, and it was the sorts of phone calls that you see in movies where you don't know if it's going to be the last time. It was very delicate experience. I remember one of the first things that came to mind was, damn, I got two books that still haven't been published but that are done. I need to I need to send someone like the plan of what's missing in terms of organization to getting them out there, or where they can find the information in my computer. If God forbid something happens, at least I need my ideas to get out there. I'll die, but my ideas will stay alive and stay influencing the cause, hopefully playing a productive role. Thank you so much, Lawn Guy, for the $2 super chat. I'm glad to be here as well. I wasn't sure of it some days ago. Um, I was told, and this is the reason why I had to come earlier. We had to literally buy a flight that was sooner for two reasons. One, the place we were flying to, Panama, was going to block off all flights from Venezuela because it broke relations with the country as a good puppet state, of the U.S. empire. It If I would have waited to fly out when my original flight back was, I wouldn't have been able to make it. I would have had to go through some other means. But the immediate reason why I had to order a flight and we had to, you know, use the funds of the institute, which all come from you. So I guess I owe you all a thank you. Um, I could have been in a much stickier situation had it not been for what you all had contributed financially to the institute. I had to get a last minute flight um, because I was told that there was a spy in our hotel. There was an opposition spy in the hotel I was staying in. Uh, the opposition had, for a period of time, completely blocked off access to the airport. It's the only airport that does international flights. So look at the context. The opposition had blocked off access to the airport. They had surrounded our perimeter. There was a military airport nearby, but it wasn't enough for commercial flights. And access to the sea, to the coast, was also blocked off. That's the context I was in. Um, the idea was, to find a way to break through the perimeter to get to, yes, Jackson. By the way, Jackson. I'll talk about Jackson in a little bit because Jackson's situation is also scary. This isn't necessarily true. They could be a little bit more stern, but there's also the Venezuelan state has to lead a lot of these idiots to think that the state itself is stupider than it is. They were up to everything. They were able to know things well ahead of time. So let's have more faith in the Venezuelan state. They're a lot more capable than they show themselves to the opposition to be, and that's good. That's how I think socialist states should exist. The idea was to somehow break through the guarimbas, the barricades that were preventing us from going to the airport, and in the time that it would be broken to pass the buses through. But this plan was spoiled because of the spy that was inside the hotel, which really threw a wrench at things. So last minute, we had to say very publicly it's going to be this time, and then privately get all of the people at another time in order to go. And the way we were escorted was in buses that had their lights off, with police cars that had their lights off. And we were going through a bunch of side roads and highways in order to get to get to the airport. And then we were finally able to make it to the airport. But it was the Midwestern March Secret Service. Yes, we'll have to get Kyle on that. So yeah, we got exported to not exported. What's the word? Escorted. We got escorted to the airport in these buses that they had to be off in order to not in order to prevent the opposition from seeing us and coming back into the streets. There was one bus that was caught up. It was on the way to the airport, and it was stopped by the guarimbas. They had to turn around and go back. I heard some stories that there was stuff thrown at them, that it was a pretty sticky situation, but I haven't been able to confirm that. So thank you so much, comrade. By the way, great seeing you at the launch of the book in Chicago 3 weekends ago now. It was a sticky situation. With Hinkle, it gets more complicated because the day that we're all preparing our escape, uh, Jackson's hotel isn't, and they're just kind of chilling around. And he posts a series of pictures with comrades, obviously very innocently. Like this is one with Bolivian National Deputy Gloria Magdalena Calizaya Rodriguez. By the way, weirdest fucking white supremacist I've ever met in my life. Um, this is what I mean. Like at some point, you realize the left is just fucking filled with idiots, and you just have to ignore them. But this is the video. I'm not gonna play the music because it's got Many Men, 50 Cent, so I don't want to get a copyright strike. But they used this picture and another one that he took with a Colombian comrade from uh, Pacto Histórico, the ruling coalition behind Pedro, to find that he was in the Pestana Hotel. And then, of course, the individual that partook in the Olympics ceremony, Drew Pavlu, also shared it. He went viral. And here is someone from the Venezuelan opposition. Urgente, el comunista gringo Jackson Hinkle está en Venezuela para lavarle la cara al régimen asesino de Nicolás Maduro por ex. Pueblo de Venezuela, identifíquenlo y denle una calurosa bienvenida, como los venezolanos sabemos hacerlo, con los amigos del tirano Maduro. So urgent, communist gringo Jackson is here to clean the face of the murderous regime of Maduro. People of Venezuela, identify him and give him the warm welcome that we Venezuelans like to give the friends of the Maduro tyranny. Do you know what warm welcome means? Someone put it in the chat what warm welcome means. Let's see if you guys can guess what this absolute scum. By the way, thank you, Joan, for the 27 in some currency that I'm not sure what it is, but thank you so much, comrade, for your donation. Burn. These fascist fucks have burned people alive in the past. And this warm welcoming is a dog whistle for burning. They were calling for the opposition to find, identify, and burn Jackson Hinkle. I don't know about you guys, but people who are grifters do not put themselves in a position to be burned. People who are not serious about the ideas they expose about the cause of communism and anti-imperialism do not put themselves in a position where rabid Zionist dogs are calling for them to be burned by people who have burned people before. It's not in the playbook of grifters to put themselves in those positions. Just like it's not in the playbook of white supremacists to be as good friends with Mandla Mandela, with African comrades from around the world, with indigenous comrades from Bolivia and Peru and Ecuador. All people who I spoke to with Jackson. And there was nothing but shared admiration on both sides for the struggles we each are waging. So again, folks, if you have been misled about our comrade because of tweets from the past, some of which have been fabricated, faked, others which are genuine mistakes of a young 23, 22-year-old, I would really urge you, if my word means anything to you, to reconsider. The individual I got to spend this very stressful week with is someone who is serious about the cause. Obviously, not perfect. None of us are. We should not expect perfection from people. He would not say he's perfect. I would not say I'm perfect. None of us would say we're perfect. But he's a person who is seriously committed to the things he says he is. He is not a grifter. He's not a fucking white supremacist. That's ridiculous. And the people that go around calling themselves communists and saying that the individual who has been the only one to make our side of the Venezuelan affair trending in American Twitter, the only motherfucker who has gotten our ideas out there to millions of people and has actually been able to challenge the Elon Musk and all the right-wing Zionist rabid dogs. The only person doing that is Jackson. And also the ACP that had a couple tweets that went viral. My picture with Diosdado Cabello was one of them. If you call yourself a leftist or a communist and you condemn the people that are at the forefront, the only people actually waging a potentially winnable fight in the medias against the far right that's promoting the murderous, terrorist opposition in Venezuela, you are effectively acting on behalf of those same forces. Because as Howard Zinn said, there's no neutrality on a moving train. You cannot be neutral on a train that has left the station. If you're condemning the people that are the most important in waging the informational war against the opposition and the Zionists and the far right in Venezuela and the imperialist narrative, if you're against that, people putting their lives on the line, Jackson is still in Venezuela, threatening his life. These people are urging him to be burnt. There's high intel sources that have told us that there is a real dangerous threat against Jackson's life in Venezuela. And he's still there reporting in order to get the truth out. So if you don't think that he's serious, if you're going to tout the lies about him, if you're going to try to bring down the individual that has done literally more than anyone else in the sphere of the informational war for Venezuela, for the Chavista process, for the cause of anti-imperialism and multipolarity represented in this election. If you're going to do that, don't call yourself a communist. You are no different than the reactionary right. You're just taking a new form because you're doing the same thing they do, which is spitting on, delegitimizing, attacking, condemning the people that are actually getting our ideas out there. You only want socialist and anti-imperialist ideas out there only if they're unsuccessful in reaching millions of people. As soon as they become successful, you begin to condemn them. And if you're going to be like that, you're not an asset to the movement. You're the opposite. You're in the other team. So really, I have a lot of friends who were skeptical about Hinko and the ACP. Reflect. Reflect on your own ideas. Reflect on the things you claim to believe. Because if you continue acting in this way, it becomes evident that who you're serving is the far right. If all you have is slander, lies, and shit to throw at the person and now collective party who is at the forefront of fighting the informational war on behalf of socialism, communism, multipolarity, anti-imperialism. At a time when these people's lives are being threatened, if all you have is smears, go fuck yourself. Go fuck yourself. You are nothing but a rightist. You are nothing but scum that defends imperialism and gives it a leftist veneer. You are defending imperialism. If you have nothing but slain and negative words for the people that are at the forefront of combating it in a sphere as important as social media, which is one of the central areas through which people form their opinions. So here's Jackson.
And niggas trying to take my life.
Reportedly missing. This wasn't true. He's safe and sound, thankfully. Sanction Jackson Hinkle. Freeze his bank account. When you condemn Jackson, you act in the interest of those fucking scum. You can have all the hammers and sickles in your bio you want. You can post all the pictures you want of any revolutionary. You can even throw Stalin up there on your Twitter. You can post all the pictures of Stalin. You can translate his books or books about him. But when you act in the way you do against Jackson, against the ACP, against Midwestern Marx, against Infrared, you are no Stalinist. You are not in Stalin's tradition. You are in the tradition of Trotsky. You're in the tradition of traitors to the revolution, of people who might subjectively think that they're on the right side, but who objectively side with the forces of empire, with the forces of evil, with the inhumane forces that are promoting now the burning of a 24-year-old guy who's got the fucking cojones, who's got the balls to be in Venezuela doing what all of us should be fucking doing. What you don't have the fucking balls to do, he's doing. And you're going to sit there and call him a fucking grifter. Why? Because he succeeds and you fucking don't? Because you had decades to get some shit done and didn't? And now the young guys, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28-year-olds have to get shit done and pick up after your fucking mess? We have to fight. Not fighting isn't even a fucking question. Every day we wake up, not fighting is not a question. The question is, how do we fight? How do we fight today? I can't wake up, turn around and see my child, my 2-year-old, the world that we live in, and not fucking fight. The question is, how do we fight? And the shitty position we're in is thanks to you motherfuckers who had decades to do something and did shit. You treaded in national nihilism. You weren't able to connect to our people. You condemned anti-imperialist and socialist states. And then you condemned half of the fucking working class because they don't live up to your stupid liberal cultural values. So fuck you. Fuck you. You're objectively on the right. You're objectively a reactionary. You're objectively a social chauvinist. You are everything you project onto us. It's pure projection. And if sometime down the line you want to reflect and realize how fucking wrong you guys were, we don't have a purity fetish. If we see that you're changed and you want to work, come. But as of right now, with the positions that a lot of you hold towards Hinkle, ACP, whatever the hell it might be, you can call yourself as leftist as you want. You can put as many pride flags on your bio as you want. You are objectively a reactionary because you are seeking to delegitimize, to stomp out, to condemn the only people that are being semi-successful in reaching a critical mass with this message. You're objectively a reactionary when you do that. Thank you, Lon Guy. Thank you, John. The Chavistas maintain control in the military, support in the military, because there's a lot of political education. All of the military people are not just military people, they're educated in the Chavista process. All of the military people are comrades, and a lot of the leading positions in the government are given precisely to these people because they're some of the most consistent, along with the working class at large, with the revolution. Thank you. Thank you, Sean Moon. Thank you, Comrade Daniel. Daniel was someone that was supposed to be there with us. We had a whole delegation of people that were going to go. And because of the you know who leftists, our delegation was blocked off. Somehow it was only me and Jackson who were able to get in. How much more content, how much more eyes could we have had on Venezuela if we would have had Eddie with a phone in his pocket next to us? How many videos could he have made reaching millions, if he would have been in Venezuela? But he was blocked by the same people who try to tarnish our name and spread lies here at home. That's who he was blocked by. And so was Daniel. And so was Danny. And so was everyone else in that delegation. And so was Haas. How many tweets, how many videos, how many things could we have done promoting the Chavista cause, debunking the lies of the reactionary terrorist far right, of the imperialist far right? They pulled us out last minute, no information. People higher up were expecting our delegation, our people to be there. People like Danny, who's been a people's ambassador to Venezuela for more than 15 years. People were asking, where's Danny? Where's Danny? Well, perhaps there's some people you have invited who don't want us here. Perhaps there's some people here who want socialism and communism and the anti-imperialist cause to continue to fail in America, who are more concerned about their ability to be re-invited to events like this, who are more concerned with keeping their meaningless and futile hegemony across leftist spaces in the West and in the US than actually winning the struggle against our decrepit ruling class, than actually winning for Venezuela some breathing room by overthrowing the empire that places 930 sanctions on their government, that hurts and kills people. They're more concerned about their subjective position than about the objective cause of anti-imperialism. Because if they were concerned about the objective cause of anti-imperialism, when we extend our hands to all of these people and say, you know what, we have our differences. There's various different sectors that we operate out of, but for the sake of unity, because we recognize that defeating imperialism is more important, let's come together. Let's see how we can work. For any of those out there thinking that this unity comes from us, oh boy, are you wrong. We have extended in a non-sectarian fashion our hands out to everyone. If hands have not been shaken, it's been the other hand who has said no, not ours. Ours has been the hand that has said consistently, let's focus on what's principle. Even in Venezuela, we extended hands to hands that rejected it. This farce cannot continue. This aura of superiority has no place in communist spaces. We have our flaws. We recognize it. We're young. We have a lot to learn, a lot to improve on. But we're serious about the cause. We know what's principle for us. It's not our identities. It's not our social medias. It's the cause itself. The cause is what we care about. The struggle. What its victory can provide regular working class and oppressed people. That's what we care about. And we'll fight with anyone to achieve those ends. And if you don't want to join us in that fight, that's on you. But if you want to prevent us from waging the fight by declaring war on us, by saying that you're going to use whatever power you have with other states to prevent us from establishing relations that can help us get the cause of these comrades from the global south out to a public that you have never been able to reach. If you come to us with war, do not be surprised when we fight back. Do not be surprised when we defend ourselves. Thank you so much, Comrade Slava, for the $10 super chat. Thank you. For the ACP members in the audience, or people who are in the process of being interviewed, but who know very clearly that they will be ACP, I want to tell you something. The party that you are a part of is a party whose emergence is welcomed and applauded by some of the most respected figures in the global communist movement. The ACP is not just Haas, myself, Eddie, Hinkle, and the forces that have come together to form the party. It isn't just acting out of our own individualist volitions. The ACP is the reconstitution of the Communist Party. And the Communist Party is nothing more than the party of the people. The Communist Party is the organization that organizes, gives coherence, unity, and direction to the dissenting American masses. There is but one Communist Party. Before our launch, that Communist Party was hijacked. Before our launch, that Communist Party was usurped, was couped by a clique of rats who represent the interests of the fascists and imperialists, who not only sustained a deeply anti-communist line in their political practice, but who destroyed the operational reality of democratic centralism. A party can have an incorrect line. A party can vacillate at times towards social chauvinism. Which, folks, social chauvinism is not having conservative views on issues of gender. Social chauvinism is saying that the interests of your working class at home is worth upholding to the detriment of our brothers and sisters in the working class and in oppressed nations abroad. The people that call us social chauvinists for not canceling parts of the working class that are conservative are themselves a social chauvinist. Because they're the ones that say, I don't care if there's a genocide in Palestine. I don't care if Nazis are waging a proxy war against Russia with hundreds of billions of our tax dollars. Biden gives the working class at home some crumbs that are better than Trump. That is social chauvinism par excellence. They are the social chauvinists. And not only that, in order to defend their social chauvinism, which is something that if there was democratic centralism, a party can correct course because it would have autonomy. The members would have sovereignty within the party, control over their own destiny, the ability to forge their own future. If there was democratic centralism, whatever mistakes of party line could be corrected. This is why the last 4 years of work have been essential. Our people have been in the party. No one can tell us that we're some Trotskyite split, arbitrarily forming a party. Our people have been in the party. Our people have been the majority within the party. And that was shown in the reply to Resolution 5 at the 32nd National Convention. Our people won that vote. That is why the Sims clique, those who objectively support fascism under the auspices of claiming to be fighting against it. That is why those degenerates rejected the motion to actually have a count on that vote. That is why those rats have gone on and purged all of the members that said, hey, we're not asking our line to be imposed. What we're asking is the ability to debate. We want the democratic consultation that is constitutionally promised to us as members of the glorious institution that holds the name of Communist Party. They were not only denied, but purged. Hundreds of members, dozens of clubs. And so when a party does that, is it a communist party? If the members that are the base of the party, the cadre, say, in order to be faithful to the Constitution and the party's legacy, we have to reconstitute the American Communist Party. If members from splinters of the past recognize this new reconstitution as the Communist Party and quit their party 80% to come join this party, if other communists who have been kicked out previously from this fraud led by the Sims clique and who come to join the Communist Party, reconstituted anew, how are you going to tell me that this isn't the Communist Party? The American Communist Party is the Communist Party. There is no CPUSA. There is no PCUSA. There is no one else. There is the ACP. The ACP is the American Communist Party. That is the party of this nation. The one party, the one Marxist-Leninist party that our people have. It is the party that has stood on business, that has put the principal contradictions forward and has laid out a platform of unity, bringing together people from different communities to wage a struggle where the most important thing is not a purity fetish, a purity of doctrine, a purity of ideas, a purity of ideological cohesiveness. The basis of this organization is results, 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 results. Can you get us further in the class struggle? I don't care if your ideas and methods seem heterodox. Can you advance the class struggle forward? That is the metric. That is our metric. Our metric is going to be success. If we don't succeed, we're out. If the leadership doesn't succeed in meeting the goals set by the Central Committee, we're out. Enough. Enough is enough. We've had objectively revolutionary conditions here for decades. Our people are struggling, figuring out how the fuck to make ends meet. Drowning in debt slavery, desperate, addicted, depressed, ready to fight, ready for something new, saying no to the established order in different ways. Some people did it with Bernie. Some people did it with Trump. Some people became apolitical. But the vast majority of them are saying no to the status quo. They're saying no to the system that we've developed into. Where is the organization that organizes that discontent, that gives it coherence, that gives them unity, that gives them direction? Where is it? Where is that party that has this historic role of developing the subjective factor when the objective ones are present, so that united the objective and subjective conditions can produce something transformative? Where has it been? It's nowhere to be found. It was nowhere to be found. Now it exists. Now it exists. Now it exists. If in 1 or 2 years we're in the same place we were today, we have failed. And you, the people, have all the right to dispose of us of power, to remove us, and create anew your organization. As was already stated in 1776, if the interests of the class struggle are not upheld by the organization that's supposed to be the conscious vehicle of that struggle, you have not only the right, but the duty to get us out of there. That's our party. A real communist party. A party based in results. A party that has said enough. It is 2024. Our people have been struggling for decades. Conditions have been ripe for decades. And you, established left, you've done nothing. Nothing. All you have done is send out the same 15 fucking people to chant the same fucking slogans every weekend. All you have done is throw conferences with some academics who fancy themselves as workers. And that's not to say that conferences or protests are not important. But the name of the game is convincing people. The name of the game is winning the trust of the masses. Not every American has to be a communist. The vast majority won't. But there's the people that are made cadre, and then there's the sympathetic mass. The people that don't need to know Marxism. The people that don't even have to be clear in their idea of what a communist is, but who have faith in us because we have improved their circumstances. We have shown ourselves to not only be at heart upholding their interests, but to also have the political will and capacity to realize it. This is what our organization will accomplish. And if it doesn't, overthrow us. If we don't accomplish this, overthrow us. Come overthrow us. If in 2-3 years we have been doing nothing but sitting around and tweeting, come overthrow us. Come overthrow us. We welcome it. But that's obviously not what's going to happen. All of us have no other central guiding purpose in life but to wage this fight. And it's one we will succeed in. I have full confidence in that. Full confidence. Thank you, Faoud, for the 10,000. And I do not know what currency, but thank you so much for the super chat, comrade. All of you listening right now have a very important role to play. You guys are not spectators. You guys are not fans. I don't fucking want fans. I don't need fans. We don't need fans. We need comrades. That's a word that means something. It's tossed around loosely. Just like communism, tossed around very loosely. But it means something. Not everyone's a communist. Go look at Lenin's writings, his speeches to the Communist Party youth. Does he say you become a communist when you identify as a communist? Tell me. In the chat, tell me. Is that what Lenin says? When you throw a hammer and sickle in the bio, that's when you become a communist. No. When do you become a communist? Can anyone be a communist? You become a communist. Not when you're good at remembering communist slogans and just mechanically repeating them. You become a communist when you're able to work within the masses, when you know the masses. If you're disconnected from the masses, I don't care how much Marx you know, you're not a communist. If you're disconnected from your people, I do not care how much Marx you know. I do not care how much Lenin you've studied. I do not care how many fucking people you cite. You are not a communist. If you're disconnected from the American people, if you look down on the American people, you're not a communist. A communist isn't just anyone. A communist needs to unite. That deep integration within their people's reality. With a certain level of insight, which isn't just reducible to the things within our tradition. Lenin said, you become a communist when you drink from the fountain of knowledge humanity has produced. So can you be a communist if all you've read is Marx? If all you understand is just the basics of Marxism? No. You need to be a capable, civilized individual. Study, study, study. I've said this joke before. They asked Marx, Engels, and Lenin the same question. Do you want to be with your wife or mistress? Which do you prefer? Marx, as a good social conservative, says, I would like to be with my wife. Engels says, I would like to be with my mistress. He was a little more liberal in social affairs. And Lenin says both. And they asked Lenin, both? What do you mean? Is he the ultimate degenerate? You know? And Lenin says, I will tell my wife I'll be with the mistress. I'll tell the mistress I'll be with the wife. And then I'll go to the library and I'll just study, study, study. Study, study, study. What is he studying? Well, he was studying a little bit of everything, not just the basics. Not just the basics. He was going back and reading the history of philosophy. He was reading history in general. You have to be a competent individual. The communist, in short, has to be the man of the future, the man and woman of the future. That's what they called Che Guevara. That's what people came after interacting with him. That's the sentiment they had. I engaged with someone from the future. That's the new man and woman he writes about socialism having to create. That new man and woman socialism creates with decades and perhaps even centuries of formation. That individual has to already be embodied in the member of the Communist Party. In all of us, in the American Communist Party, it should be evident that as individuals, we should represent a portal into the future. That's what the members of the Communist Party are going to be. Those who can represent in their very being portals into the future. When regular people engage with you, they need to come out thinking the same thing as those who engage with Che. Wow, if this is the sort of people that are formed in the future society, that's something I want to fight for. You each need to be portals into the future. Study harder, work harder, integrate yourself with the people more. Keep yourself up in terms of fitness. You can't be 320. It's not fat phobic, but you just can't be, you can't be 320 and be in the party. It shows a certain lack of discipline. And it's not a condemnation of you as an individual, but you always have the capacity to change that reality. Be disciplined. You become a great individual, you become a portal into the future, not through a Buddhist moment of reflection where you just transform and that's it, and then a halo is put on your head. You become this. You become this through habits. Create healthy habits. Develop discipline. Even if you don't like it, and especially if you don't like it, if you don't enjoy it, you still have to do it. That's what discipline is all about. I believe it was Tom Platz, one of the great American bodybuilders, who said discipline is doing what you have to do, and even though you hate it, you do it as if you love it. That has to be your mindset. If you don't like reading, you still have to do it. And do it like you love it. Eventually, you'll actually love it. I didn't read my first book until my sophomore year of college. I was not raised in a reading household. I hated reading. I struggled to concentrate. But as soon as I got the habit of reading, I've been reading more than 100 pages a day, almost every day since. And you become a different individual. If you develop these habits, within 3 months, you're a different individual. The same thing with reading goes with other affairs. A communist cannot be someone that's secluded. Communist has to be the person that is capable of being able to talk to people they don't know about sensitive issues, of being able to feel out where it is that people are starting from so that they can best adjust how to speak to each individual in a way that's careful and calculated and cognizant of the specificities of the person that you're speaking to. There's no copy and paste. We're not going to give you a formula to go speak to your coworkers. You have to be capable enough to understand how to speak, who to speak to, and how to adjust your language with each person. So if you're a part of this party or are thinking about being a part of it, just know that it's not just a revolution of the system that we live under that we're seeking to wage. It's a revolution at the human level. We want you to undergo a revolution in the party. We want the party to be that force which pushes you to be the person you were capable of being the whole time, but didn't know you could be. We want you to be, a year after being in the party, surprised at who you've become. We want the people that didn't see you for a year and then interact with you again to be surprised at how far you've come. That's what the Communist Party is going to build. And if you have the discipline to commit yourself to that process, if you have the will to do it, come join us. We don't expect ideological purity. We expect commitment to this process of radically transforming the current state of affairs. Thank you, Comrade L, for another 20 Midwestern Marks memberships gifted. Joey's in the chat. Joey is in the chat. Shout out to Joey. Joey lost more than 100 pounds. That shows commitment. That shows discipline. Joey, let us know how many pounds you lost. Joey went from 3-something, I think, to 225, if I recall correctly. That basis of discipline can be employed in any other area, and it will lead to success. That's why Joey is going to be a member of the American Communist Party. That discipline is foundational. Without it, we have nothing. I don't care how capable you are. If you don't have discipline, we don't want you. I do not care how capable you are. If you do not have discipline, we don't want you. Get discipline. And then come. I am 223. I used to be 376. 150 pounds. 150 pounds. That's discipline. That's self-control. That's being able to be autonomous. You are autonomous. You are free, not when you give in to your shallow desires. This is what capitalist society tells us. I'm free when I can do whatever my balls feel like. I'm free whenever I have a desire, a pleasure, an inkling, and I go and I satisfy it. That's freedom. That's not freedom. That's enslavement. You are enslaved to your passions. You are enslaved to your desires. Freedom is self-regulation. Freedom is found in the recognition of necessity. Freedom is found when you're able to give lawfulness to your own life. And that's what Joey did. That's what discipline is all about. It's saying, I'm going to command myself. That's what enlightenment is as well. That's what enlightenment is. Self-governance. I'm going to give laws to myself that I'm going to respect. If your discipline is only found when you have a coach screaming at you, if your discipline is only found when you have a teacher telling you to read, forcing you to read, you don't have discipline. Discipline comes from inside. It's when you give yourself laws that you have to follow, and when the authority for following these laws becomes yourself, that's when you have discipline. That doesn't mean you can't have coaches. That doesn't mean you can't have teachers that help. But ultimately, the person who is really disciplined is the one that is able to develop themselves into such a point that they can do it without those guides, that they can do it just out of their own autonomous power, ability to forge their own future in a regulated, dutiful manner. That's real freedom. That's what Joey exhibited by losing 150 pounds. Joey is a free man because Joey doesn't give into the desires he used to years ago. And I don't mean to be picking on Joey, but this is a beautiful example of freedom, of discipline that should be emulated and learned from by Cadre. Thank you, Sean, for the huge $50 super chat. I wish I could help more for the cost of the airline ticket. I'm glad you made it back to teach us about what happened in Venezuela. Thank you so much, brother. Yeah, that ticket was steep. We had to get it last minute. If not, I would have been stuck in a hotel with a spy of the opposition with God knows what happening. Jackson is still over there. He's safe. They were able to move him from the hotel he was in, and others as well. So hopefully there's something big coming that we cannot say, but fingers crossed. There might be something very special that Jackson puts out in the next few days. Maybe not, but we're trying to make it happen. The opposition have gone to many interesting extents in order to cheat. Let me show you a couple of them.
Hoy me escribió, le pedí el permiso, me lo concedió, nada más y nada menos que el presidente de la Asociación de Empresarios Petroleros de Texas.
Okay.
El amigo
So this guy's saying that he was just messaged by the president of gas entrepreneurs, of oil entrepreneurs in Texas. Venezuelan guy. Let me know if you could hear this, by the way. Let me know in the chat if the video is heard. All right, come on, guys. Let me know. Okay, good.
Terán. Y me dijo que él entró a la página de María Corina Machado y que puso la cédula de su hermano, 9.946.044. 9.946.044. Su hermano aparecía, bueno, que votó, aparecía el acta. Su hermano murió hace años.
Okay. This entrepreneur, that's the president of an oil company, of an oil association in Texas, Venezuelan descendants. He looked up his brother's information in the database of Maria Corina Machado's voters, so the opposition candidate, the psychopathic traitor who asked Israel to invade Venezuela. It's these sort of scum who are in the opposition. But this guy looked up his brother in her database, put in the number, and found him. Now let's see what he says.
Y el amigo Terán me dijo, ya lo contactamos en la Iguana para hacer la entrevista, le vamos a hacer una entrevista, ya la estamos realizando. Y me enseñó esto aquí.
He sent the proof that his brother was found in the database of Maria Corina Machado.
Esto es lo que dice la página de María Corina Machado. Confirmas y todo, ¿sí? Bueno. Su hermano tiene años de fallecido. Y Terán, yo sé que el
His brother died years ago. That's the problem. They're counting votes of dead people. They are counting the votes of dead people. The Venezuelan opposition, I repeat, is counting the votes of dead people. And it is confirmed by people who are not fucking Chavistas. This is the president of some oil coalition who lives in Texas, who was like, what the fuck? Why is the voter code of my brother? So it's not just, oh, someone by the same name. No. It was the code. Why was he found there within the database of people who voted for Maria Corina Machado? You guys need to understand, this opposition does everything they possibly can to cheat. That's why the Venezuelan electoral system has to be so thorough and good. These people do everything they can to cheat. I'm trying to think about how the fuck they did that. Whether that individual is registered in the CNE or whether it was just in Maria Corina Machado's document and her fake information. But I'm trying to think of how they did that. They could have, if it was in the CNE, they could have found someone who looked like him, somehow put on his index finger the fingerprint of the deceased person that somehow they had. I mean, they found a way because it's there. A dead guy, a guy that's been dead for years, voted for Maria Corina Machado. And we have the audacity in the US to challenge for electoral fraud, not the scum that we fund, but the people that have gone over and above everything in order to try to guarantee the honesty and fairness and freedom of their elections. It's the turning of the world on its head. The people that actually participate in electoral fraud are not the Chavistas, it is the opposition. The people who are happy gaining votes from motherfuckers that have been dead for years. That's the reality. That's what the mainstream media won't tell you. That's what fucking Musk's ex won't let you see. They got motherfuckers that have been dead for years that are voting for Maria Corina Machado. That's the real voter fraud. Those are the scum that the Chavistas have to face. Thank you, Rob, for the $2 super chat, €2 super chat. Good luck from the ACP, from the Workers' Party. We have a lot of respect for the Workers' Party of Great Britain and for Comrade Galloway. So thank you very much. Ignacio, muchas gracias. $2 super chat. Esa lacra vendería su pueblo al mismo diablo. Yeah, and that's what they're doing. The devil is the American empire, and that's who they're trying to sell their people to. That's who they're trying to sell their people to. That's who they're trying to sell their land to. These are the people that Jose Marti called gusanos de corbata. Gusanos de corbata. Worms with bow ties. Worms with bow ties. These are the scum that sell their homeland, that sell their people, that sell their traditions, that sell their sovereignty to line up their pockets with the money coming from the oligarchs in the US. This is who the opposition is. They're traitors to the homeland, and they deserve everything that's coming to them. The leaders, they deserve everything that's coming to them. I know that there's perhaps some younger people that are confused, that see the objective difficulties that the blockade has put Venezuela in, and might see the right wing as something fresh and new. And it's very sad that some of them have been convinced to go into the streets. And it happens all the time. It's a form of false consciousness. And I hope that those people can be convinced and transformed from their erroneous ways. But the people orchestrating this, these people are guilty. The leaders of the opposition, the financial interest behind it, and our politicians here at home that promote it. These are people insinuating violence, insinuating terror. These are people that want a Venezuela to bend down and take it in the back from the US again, that want the neo-colony in Venezuela. They want Venezuela to be the sort of paradise for the Western elites where they can come and loot and have ownership once again over the resources of the country that's got the second largest oil reserves in the world and that's rich in many other things as well. That's why what was at stake this election was Venezuela itself, not just socialism. It was the sovereignty of Venezuela as an independent, autonomous entity that was at stake. Not just this or that idea. Sovereignty itself was at stake. And the Venezuelans defended it. They defended it at the ballot box. And they are defending it now in the streets. Millions are in the streets. Millions. There might have been thousands in the guarimbas, the criminal guarimbas, yesterday and the day before. But today there's millions in the streets defending their sovereignty, defending their legacy, defending themselves, their families, their land, their resources, their revolutionary process, their Bolivarian revolution. That's what they're defending. When one has sovereignty, one can make mistakes, reflect critically, and then think, how do I move forward? Because you are the owner of your own destiny. You can forge your own future. But if you don't have sovereignty, if you're a puppet that is puppeteered by external foreign interest, you have no say over your future. What was at stake in Venezuela was sovereignty itself, and sovereignty won. And will continue to win, and will defend homeland, its people, its resources, till the very end. Cuba's slogan, which might have arisen out of particular circumstances, but which has attained universal dimensions, is the slogan right now guiding the spirit of the Venezuelan people. Patria o muerte, venceremos. Patria o muerte, venceremos. Homeland or death will triumph. Homeland or death will triumph. That's the guiding spirit of the Venezuelan people right now. They're fighting with the spirit of Che and Fidel and Bolivar and Chavez. When Chavez died, and I heard this story from one of the comrades higher up in PSUB. When Chavez died, the criminal Gusano opposition, all they could tell Maduro was, "You're not Chavez." This young bus driver, "You're not Chavez, you're not Chavez." And you know what Maduro said? "Yes, alone as an individual, I'm just Nicolas. I'm not Chavez. But together, we are all Chavez. Together, we are all Chavez. Together, we are all Chavez." And Chavez is what's defending sovereignty right now in Venezuela. The Venezuelan people have come together. And together, Chavez is there. It's present. It is Chavez defending Venezuela right now. That's who is in the streets. Yes, a bunch of individuals, but together they are Chavez. Together they are Chavez. And they will not lose. They'll defend their sovereignty and their Bolivarian revolution at all costs. At all costs. And it's up to us who live in the belly of the beast, as Martí called it, to expose the lies of our imperialist ruling class. We have to expose these lies. We have to expose these lies because these are the lies that function as the premises for the drums of war later on. It is on the basis of not answering these lies, of assuming that everyone already understands it's bullshit. It is on the basis of these lies that they get the people to accept waging a much stronger and protracted war against the Venezuelan people and revolution, which is simultaneously a war on us because we're on the same side. So you have a duty. You watching on your phone, on your computer, on your devices, listening in later, you have a duty. Your duty is to share this, to let it be heard by people who don't already agree with what I'm saying. Give me the opportunity the algorithms haven't afforded me. The algorithms are not going to send our live streams to random people. The algorithms are not going to give us the opportunity to reach the ears of apolitical people. Only you can give me that opportunity. Only you can. Go through your phone, find your neighbors, find your coworkers, people who you think should be listening, and send it to them. The imperialists have the resources. The imperialists have the unity that we don't have. But what we have is the people. If the 800 of you watching this right now went ahead and send it around now or later on in the day to someone who wouldn't have had this content afforded to them by their algorithms, you have effectively defeated the algorithm. That requires people power. That requires organization. It requires will. It requires a certain sense of courage to send something so political and sensitive to someone who you might have had another different type of relationship with. but who now you recognize that what they think is important. That's what the imperialists want us to think. And Parenti, as always, was very clear here. They want us to think that what we think doesn't matter, when the only thing they care about us is what we think. The only thing about us that they care about is what we're thinking. That's why they invest so much in propaganda. The only way to challenge this is through people power, through you all sharing, liking, and doing what you have to do to get the truth out there. Not just my random babblings, the truth, which is what I'm sitting here in front of you telling you. A truth I saw with my own eyes in Venezuela. You have a duty. If you're committed to this, especially if you're ACP, you are no longer a fan. You are no longer a passive observer. You're active in this process, in this message that we have a duty together to spread. It is not just you watching something on your phone anymore. It's much more than that. Much more is at stakes now. You have a duty to play. You have to live up to the role that we need you to live up to, that you need yourself to live up to. Thank you, Jason, for the $3 super sticker. All right, folks. We're making history. And things are just getting started. The ACP is going to develop into an organization worthy of the working class. I have no doubt. I have ultimate faith and belief in this process. And belief is not something just for the religious. Without belief, nothing could be done. For any of you who go to the gym, go try to hit your PR without believing you're going to hit it. And see if you hit it. And then change your frame of mind into one of deep belief and faith into what you're about to do, and then do it. And you'll see you'll do it. Don't let anyone tell you that belief or faith is some mystical religious bullshit. It's not. It's essential in day-to-day affairs. And what should unite all of us is not just the commitment, but the deep and profound belief in our ability to succeed, without which we won't be able to. What do you think guided Fidel and Che when they got off that boat and very quickly lost almost 90% of the people they came with? Were stranded, 12 of them. What do you think kept them afloat? What do you think allowed them, within a couple years, to march down in Havana and complete the revolution and take power? Do you think it was the purity of their ideas? Do you think it was some weird cosmic alignment? Do you think it was just some quirk that they had as individuals, or the fact that they were specials? What allowed them to triumph is the fact that they had the belief that they would. There was no doubt in their mind that they were going to fail. And there cannot be any doubt in ours. And they conjoined to that belief the discipline, the work ethic, the habits that can make the belief become a reality. We have to believe we will win. We have to be certain we will win. And conjoined to that belief, to that faith, to that certainty, we need discipline. We can do this. We will do this. And when we do it, I know for a fact that a lot of the people around the world whose hands I shook this past week, the boot that is under their neck in the struggle they're waging will be lifted. We fight not just for ourselves or for our people, we're fighting, frankly, for humanity itself. We have the terrific opportunity to be situated in the context that makes our particular struggle universal, that makes our particular struggle have universal implications, unlike any other. Because it's our ruling class that's tiptoeing us into the end of humanity as such, a nuclearized third world war. It's our ruling class funding genocides. It's our ruling class funding Nazis. It's our ruling class funding terrorist opposition groups in Venezuela and all over the global south. So when we win not just for ourselves. When we win, our brothers and sisters in the global south can breathe. This is why the comrades from all over the global south that I met with, they looked upon the ACP cheerfully because they see in the ACP their own freedom. They see in the ACP the potential for us getting our shit together and changing the things that have to be changed, which will have ramifications not just for us, but for them too. Thank you, Foss, for the super sticker. I would like to end by saying that if you think you have what it takes and are willing, join. Go to ACP Maine on Twitter, follow us, and you'll see the website for how to join. Not everyone is going to be able to join. We have a very thorough process of making sure that only the creme de la creme become cadre. Only the people who can be worthy of the title communist. And we've been blessed that in the communities that both Infrared and the Institute have forged and made, the vast majority of the people applying are of that material. I can tell you, as someone who has been informed about the application process, that this isn't going to be your regular leftist organization. It's going to be in many ways the antithesis of that. Vast majority of people have been blue-collar, union, working-class folks. Tell me one party in this country whose basis is blue-collar, working-class people. No one in the American left can say that. The ACP can say that. The ACP can say that. Besides that, it's a lot of skilled professionals, engineers, technicians, people who have the sort of skill set that can actually serve society. That means there's not a whole lot of gender studies majors. My apologies. And that will be different from the other organizations on the US left. And I think in a good way. So, join if you're willing and capable. Thank you, Boda, for the membership. That's gonna be all for today. thank you all for joining me. I've tried my best. I'm sick, but I had a lot of important things to let you all know of. So we'll sign out as we always do with our new and improved rendition of the International. See you all.
Stand up, all victims of oppression, for the tyrants fear your might. Don't cling so hard to your possessions, for you have nothing if you have no right. Let racist ignorance be ended, for respect makes the empires fall. Freedom is merely privilege extended, unless enjoyed by one and all. So come, brothers and sisters, for the struggle carries on. The International unites the world in the song. So comrades, come rally, for this is the time and place. The international ideal unites the human race. Let no one build walls to divide us, walls of hatred nor walls of stone. Come greet the dawn and stand beside us. We'll live together or we'll die alone. In our world poisoned by exploitation, those who have taken, now they must give. And end the vanity of nations, we've but one earth on which to live. So come, brothers and sisters, for the struggle carries on. The International unites the world in the song. So comrades, come rally, for this is the time and place. The international ideal unites the human race. And so begins the final drama, in the streets and in the fields. We stand unbowed before their armor, we defy their guns and shields. When we fight, provoked by their aggression, let us be inspired by life and love. For though they offer us concessions, change will not come from above. So come, brothers and sisters, for the struggle carries on. The International